Another live streaming session from Encoder Fashion, and this is Rose. If you guys follow me for a while, you notice that one's my accents, and two, I do love to talk about making pattern using CLO 3D. And today's session, I'm really excited as I promised from last week that we are going to do the lining and shoulder pads right here for a blazer. And I managed to put together a kind of live session today and focusing on just that. So we are going to sew and construct the entire blazer. We will apply the shoulder pads, the linings, as well as the button and buttonholes onto the blazer. And I hope this live session will give us the opportunity to finish the entire blazer. And by the way, guys, I also have pattern is coming up for that blazer. Once again, I draft the pattern using CLO 3D, but I use the traditional pattern drafting method, which where I use it when I was a seamstress or when I was really young. And even though I grow up and moved to the United States, I'm still using this method because it works. And let me kind of cut to my a couple of things here that I want to show you before we gonna go to the blazer. Okay, so here excuse me, here's my channel. So you can come over here and then you can join for member, which is all about making pattern for $4.99 a month, and you don't have to watch any ad with the member. Excuse me. And right here, this is the blazer that I have the tutorial coming up for the publics as well as for members. When you signed up, you get to watch the entire thing. Also for public, but for public I chop them into small pieces, but for member you get to watch the entire thing and no ads. Okay, so that's a member. And another thing here, I have this guideline listed under the video description. If you look under live video description, you will see this guideline, and you click on that link, it will take you here, give you some specific measurement and number that we will use to to sew and construct this blazer. So, and before I continue with this, I just want to thank you, one of the viewer requests for this. And so another comment in there, the request was how to also make a breast pocket, but it's a well pocket. I will do that video later. Right now we are going to create pocket, but it's pocket it's kind of fake, but it looks real because we use clothes to improve it. However, we will create a real well pocket for the breast here, also down here for the waist. So before we go any further, I'm going to load the pattern into CLO and we will finish the blazer today. That's what I hope. So let me go over here. All right, so let's begin. I'm going to simply come over here and then let's just go to file and then select, okay, go to file and then select new project. And I'm going to select no save here. We don't want to save any of this. And let kind of turn on the show the floor and the ground and the shade. And after that, so by the way guys, if you guys new to CLO, right here we have the display menu where we can hide or show the floor or anything that you open your garment and you have the garment and you want to show or hide, simply go there, that display menu there. It's called vertical toggle menu, but I prefer to call it display menu because that's what it does. So you want to hide some internal line, go there and show hide, but I will show you along the way because in this it's a little bit advanced sewing, but in the tutorial I cover like a step-by-step tutorial. So at the end of the tutorial, I promise you will know how to complete that blazer with lining and shoulder pad. And in this tutorial, I'm going to more like a live session, okay? I wouldn't call it tutorial because I spend so much time talking about other stuff rather than just the blazer itself. But hey, have fun and join me. Oh, by the way, guys, happy Thanksgiving because we are now in we kind of live in Europe and we don't really get a lot of a tradition of Thanksgiving and stuff, so I do miss it, and I just want to wish you guys the best for the holiday. Just relax, don't stress out. Okay. All right, let's load the pattern. I'm going to come to my pattern here and I will bring in the XF. Oh, so by default I have mine like this. So load type, open, auto scale, do not rotate, maintain original. So if you guys purchase the pattern and bring it in, this is what you want to do. Import pattern annotation, auto trace as internal line, swap cutting line and sewing line, include notches, and ratio box or checks. To all these, and then click on OK. And again, guys, I'm not really complain, but sewing the lining and the blazer, it's a little bit more complex compared to last week. I was doing this t-shirt lining, which is quite simple. However, this, even though it look complicated, but it's not really, as long as you follow the guidelines step by step. So one thing that I learned about doing this though, that you have to do the step by step down before their work, or if it's not, if I messed up the guideline, so it won't work really well. But the worst thing here with technology, we can just simply go back as many steps we want, or literally just start from scratch again. It doesn't take us like forever compared to real life sewing. Okay, we will load the avatar now. I'm going to use my own avatar because I like how the way she looks. But you can open any default avatar and you'll be fine, because right here is default side tall. If I click on the avatar right there and I look to the right, see right there, side tall, and that's any side tall avatar work just fine for this garment for some reason. So I'm going to first, this is important, but also don't be nervous. We are going to remove pretty much most of the pattern, only one half left. So first we want to remove these shoulder pads. And by the way, guys, if you guys first open your pattern or the exact pattern, you will see I label this left, right. It's just for your own education. Let's say you want to look at here and you want to figure out the left, the right part, you have an idea where they are. And right here, they're lining. I mean, we can assume lining, but it's a good habit to have to just label them. And notches, normally 2 notches is in the back and 1 notch is in the front. Okay, so I'm going to remove this shoulder pad and press on the delete or backspace on the keyboard. My key select these one half of pattern as well, and you can also right click and then select delete if you want to. And down here we're gonna delete this. So first of all, guys, you probably wonder why I need to make a bunch of those pattern and I brought it in. If I delete all of it, why don't I just uh, make it just sell it right there? But because when it's come to CLO, it doesn't work. But if you really print these out on like a PDF and stuff, you probably can just print one half because the pattern is kind of symmetric to one another. You don't need to leave everything of it, okay? All right, so now let's get back to a pattern. First, we want to place the pattern onto the avatar. So I will use this show or hide arrangement point here. And I'm going to place the front pattern first and simply place right there. And then I'm going to click on the sleeve and then click one right there. On that, like two, like the second one from the top there, that's about right. So the more we do this, the more we see where the pattern we supposed to place them. And it is important when you place a pattern onto the avatar, if you adjust them properly, you don't have to do a lot of work when you simulate. For example, so when I looked at right here, I see the pattern. I'm going to, let's just hide that show arrangement point. And I want to click and then drag it out just a little bit. Not too far because now it kind of dug into. And this go up a little. So we want this kind of up, about roughly equal to the back pattern. And I'm going to kind of bring back out a little here. So dug in a little is okay, but it dug in a lot, it's not okay. So a little is fine. I felt like maybe bring this pattern out a little bit so it doesn't dug in too much to the sleeve because they could get tangled. Okay, that's about right. And let's kind of bring it up a little. We'll see. All right, so next I'm going to sew this pattern and press on number 2. It's really a useful key for to see. So sometimes when we in the 3D space and we have trouble seeing exact angle, press on number 2 and number 8. So number 8 is for the back side. Now you see exact angle, which is in number 2 you see the front. All right, now let's sew. Okay, to sew this pattern we will use segment sewing tool to sew this part here, and then you can also to sew this part here. You can also use the free sewing tool too. So the shoulder, I will use the segment sewing tool. It is faster. And also the dot, I will use this right here. And be sure these notches like parallel to each other. Parallel, sorry, I have trouble saying certain word, it just rolls together. Alright, so I'm going to select free sewing tool here, and we're gonna sew this sleeve cap to armhole. So press on shift now and then sew from here to here, just like that. Alright, so as you can see right here, we actually finished sewing the half, and all we need to do, make a copy of the half. So my key select just the bodice, right click, and we want to select the symmetric pattern with sewing, and let's bring it in as close as possible. So what happened when we place this pattern close to each other, the 3D pattern also have it close to each other, and that's what we want. Now we're gonna shut the back side here. I will use the free sewing tool, free sewing tool. And don't be shy to zoom in, guys, because the more we zoom in, the less mistake we could just click on that line there. So right here, I'm going to click one right here and then sew it to this much. Just like that. And now we just sew Oh, we need to sew one more thing. However, after we simulate, we will continue sewing the jacket. So I'm going to strengthen the pattern, and once again, let's come over here to the simulation icon and simulate. So here the mistake happened. Instead of showing the side seam, I left it out. So I'm going to stop and let Command or Control Z. So I'm going to sew the side seam here. So I will use the free sewing tool and sew the side seam. And we only need to sew one side because the pattern is symmetric. So that's a good thing about this. And now I'm going to simulate one more time. Alright, now much better. So everything follows, not everything, just a pocket, and that's okay. Okay, I'm going to stop the simulation and I'm going to use this segment sewing tool to sew the color. Okay, try again. And then right here. So if this happened, it's just because my computer is a little slow when it's come to simulation, and when you click sew, it doesn't sew right away. You have to do it a couple of tries. It's just because your computer CPU is kind of running all the full power it needs. So stop the simulation, and I'm gonna sew this as well. Just like that. Alright, so once again, it is a little bit annoying. I'm gonna use that segment sewing tool. Okay, let's simulate. Okay, so what happened, I'm going to Command and Control Z. I actually tangled that. So I can either delete that sewing, just to make sure, and then resew it, or I can use Command or Control plus letter B. But let's say if we make a sewing mistake, I would recommend delete it if you not know for sure. Finish sewing. So after I finish the sewing, next step we want to sew all of them. So make copy. So I did the copy, apply the fold. That's the next step that we're gonna do. Apply fold and to lapels and to the string, and here the number that I think is important. So fold string we want that 5 centimeter, 5. And fold angle for lapel we want that 360. Okay, and turn on the rendering, so fold rendering. Okay, this is another important. So fold string for hem and sleeve are the same, but fold angle we change that to 0. So I will show you, and I'm going to simply close this because we don't need that on. I'm going to come over here to the display menu and click on that, and I want to turn on the internal line, and I'm going to use this tool right here, fold arrangement tool. Simply click on that lapel there and then drag it out. So drag it out, not too much, about right there, maybe a little bit out. We don't want it too snug into it. And I'm going to come over here to the property editor and then change that to 360 and then turn on this fold render. And then I'm going to do it right here with the, let me expand it, 3D. And let's click on right here and then fold it up just like that. And then right here, we want the fold angle to be 0s. And then fold rendering on, and we want to do the same right here with the front, and click right there, kind of drag it in just like that, and to the property editor change the fold angle to 0 and turn on fold rendering. And now the back side here, oh, I just rotate the avatar with the right mouse guy. You can set it to only right mouse or right mouse with the control or command. And once again, turn that to 0 and turn this on. Okay, so now it looks pretty good. And let's see if I can simulate. Okay, next, stop the simulation and we are going to sew this. Okay, so I will use segment sewing tool. This is the best tool for sewing one segment to the next. And we only need to sew one side. Alright, so simulate one more time. Okay. And stop the simulation. Alright, so next I'm going to apply the fabric onto the garment. So to apply the fabric, I want to come over here and then double click on the fabric folder and I will type in wool and then press return enter on the keyboard. And I like to use one of these wool here. You can select any wool you want. Click and then drag onto that fabric there. And we want to click on that fabric and then come down here. We want to turn on the saturation before we can actually change the color of it. So the saturation, we want to turn that on and then this thing turn to whitish. And come down here to the color chip, click on that. And I'm going to come down here under this Pantone and I'm going to type in pink. You can type in any color you want, but I like to use pink here and then click on that pink color there and then click on apply and close. So next I'm going to let's strengthen one more time and to see the garment effects. Okay, it actually looks pretty good. Right now I'm going to simply let unstrengthen and to see what the blazer looks like. Actually looks in pretty good. I'm going to strengthen back. Alright, before we go any further, I'm going to save this file. So it's good to just save the file, so if the computer crashes or something, you don't have to worry about it. So save as projects, and I'm going to, alright, light blazer, and I'm going to make a copy because I like to create a folder. I think it's just a good habit to create a folder for CLO file because CLO, when we save the file, it comes with two pieces. One is PNG and the other is the project file. So I'm going to click on create here and then click on save. And now we can actually use command or control plus letter S every other time to save a garment. Alright, so next we are going to sew the button. To sew the button, okay, to sew the button, first we want to come over here, zoom in. I'm actually going to change this fabric type to monochrome so we get to see better. So we want to sew the buttonhole first. Okay, alright, so let me come over here to this 3D toolbar and then we want to select the buttonhole tool right there and we want to hover the mouse on there and double click. Okay, and then come to this button right there, click on that button on the object browser. And then we are going to come down here and I'm going to change that width to 3.5 and then press return enter on the keyboard to confirm. And then I'm going to simply, let's see. Then I'm going to create a button for that. To create a button, I will go to this button. So you see right here, select slash button tool, click on that and come back over here, click one on that and then right click. And then I'm going to select duplicate as button to symmetric pattern. And now we have this button right here. So I'm going to click on that button right there and we want to change that button. And to change that button, I'm going to select next to that button right there, we have this small arrow. So click on that And then scroll it down. We want to select the appropriate button. So this one will be perfect. And then we want to change the width to 3 centimeter. Press return enter on the keyboard. And I'm going to change the color of that button and buttonhole. To do that, I will first unstrengthen this garment tool because I want to pick the color from there. So once again, go back to this button right there you want. So click on that button, click on this button right here, and then come down here, click on the color, and then select the eyedropper tool and then click one right there on the jacket to select the color. And then I'm going to simply click on escape here and then click on apply. And I will do the same here with the buttonhole. So click on the buttonhole right there and click on that buttonhole. Let me move this out a little. And then I'm going to once again use this eyedropper tool and then click one right there and press on the escape on the keyboard and then click on apply and close this down. Alright, so let strengthen before we simulate here. And before we simulate, I want to remove this sewing. So use this edit pattern tool and then click on that sewing right there. Press on the delete or backspace on the keyboard to delete. Now I'm going to simulate. Alright, so stop the simulation. And next we are going to fasten the button. So to fasten the button, I'm going to come over here. Alright, let's zoom out a little. I'm going to use this tool right here, the fasten button right there, okay? Before we're going to do that though, I'm going to use the select/move tool. And we want to bring that jacket in a little. And only the front part though. We want to bring it in. Okay, and bring it kind of out a little. And right here we bring a little out. So we want to bring it close but not too close. And right there I'm going to use this fasten button tool right there. Click one on the button and then click one on the buttonhole. So you will see this button lock in a second. Sorry guys, my computer a little loose. Okay, so now this button right there, I'm going to come over here and then press on the simulation icon to simulate. And there it is. So let me press on number 2. And it is simulating, and I'm going to stop the simulation and click on this select/move tool here to get out of that button tool. And now the button is actually button on the jacket. I'm going to simply simulate one more time and then stop the simulation. So next we are going to sew the shoulder pads, okay? Okay, to sew the shoulder pad, I'm going to simply, okay, first of all, let's sew. Alright, so hopefully my computer doesn't crash. Okay, to sew the shoulder pad, I will come over here to this hardware and trim, double click on it, and then come down here, shoulder pad, double click on that shoulder pad folder, and we want to select this female shoulder pad 4mm. Double click on it, and we want to select add, okay, and then click on OK, and then click on OK once again. Alright, so before we go any further, I'm going to simply bring them down here a little. And alright, we want to check this shoulder here. So if I click on that shoulder pad right there, so this shoulder pad right here on the right, and if I look at over here, my shoulder pad here placed next to the left side. So right here the left, and I want to move this to the right. Simply my key selects that, and then bring it to the right, okay? And then I'm going to, my key selects both the shoulder pad and then bring them right here. Not too close because we want it up here. Alright, so that's about right. And then I'm going to come over here. Once again, I'm going to press on number 2 and click both on the shoulder pad and then bring it down a little. Again, guys, we want to place them where they should be before we sew and simulate. So it is important. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the shoulder pad they are in, which is perfect, and I'm going to come over and sew them. So I will use the free sewing tool. We want to sew roughly from the center and then back, and right here from the top down. And I will do the same here. Zoom in, right in the center, sew it out, and then right here, click on top here and then sew it down here. Okay, so next we want to simulate. So I'm going to once again click on the simulation icon to simulate. And so if we look at closely here, we see the shoulder pad kind of poke out the jacket, and that's okay. We will fix that. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and use the transform pattern tool. We want to click on the front one right here and then come to this property editor. We are going to change the thickness. So right here at thickness rendering, we change that to 0 and then press return enter on the keyboard, and I'm going to simulate one more time. And as you can see right here, now the shoulder pad is fixed. Okay, all right, let me double check to make sure. We will go to this display menu once again and then select the translucent surface. And now if you can see right here, now the shoulder pads stay perfect where they belong. Excellent, right? I'm going to change that back to this thick texture surface, and then press on number 2 here. So we're almost finished, guys. Maybe a little bit more, but we're more than halfway there, and we've only been doing 40 minutes. Hopefully we finish this. We don't want to leave it hanging. So I'm going to press on Command or Control plus letter S to save this. Okay. So what happened, guys? It is important to do step by step down, because the more thing that we stack on each other, the more problem or issue will occur. So the less issue, So I'm going to next bring the, So next I'm going to sew this pocket onto the jacket. To sew the pocket, I will use the free sewing tool. Click on it and click one right here to start. Click right here and then zoom in. I want to sew from here and then hover it down and right here, and then I'm going to simply come down here. So before we continue sewing this, I want to turn this right here to baseline. So click on right there, right click, and then convert that to baseline. And we also need to lock it as well. Next, we can sew that, use the free sewing tool. This one we will sew the entire thing though. And then with free sewing is pretty useful with this kind of sewing, guys. Alright, so next I'm going to kind of zoom in and use the transform pattern tool. I want to select both of these pattern pieces and then come to the 3D window, right click, and we want to select that impose over. Okay, next we want to sew the placket onto this small piece right here. Use that free sewing tool, or you can use segment sewing tool, how you like. And once again, switch the tool to transform pattern tool, click on that pattern pieces, come to this 3D window and right click. We want to select this time impose side, choose me superimpose side. Okay, and now let kind of expand this window and simulate. So it is a little slow, although my particle distance is 20 and it's still a little slow. So sorry about that, guy. Again, I'm working on a MacBook Pro. It's doing the job for 3D and I only have 16 gig of RAM, which is a little bit. So any 3D program, they recommend you have like 32 gig. 16 gigs okay, but sometimes you run into some slow happen just like that. That's okay. I mean, it does the job. I use this MacBook Pro for pretty much all my 3D and my editing. Alright, so next I'm going to make a copy of this. So I'm going to make a copy, simply my key select of that piece right there and right click, and we want to select symmetric pattern with sewing and zoom in. I'm going to press on shift and then click one to place, and I'm going to strengthen that piece as well. And before I'm going to simulate, let's just bring that out just a little hint, and then I can simulate. So they're looking pretty good. Let's go close up. Yep, and stop the simulation. Alright, so now it is pretty awesome. Next we're gonna do the lining. So we are going to create the lining for the jacket. First of all, let's save. Just who knows. Okay, to create the lining, we are going to key select just the pattern, not the pockets. Right click, and then we are going to select layer clone under. Okay, and then down here, I'm going to press on shift and then click one to place. Sorry guys, I apologize. It's computer a little bit slow. Okay, so next, while everything or while the lining are selected, I will select on right click on that lining, okay, on the lining only, and then we're gonna remove link editing. And after that, we also want to come over here to this edit sewing tool. My key selects all that lining right there, and then press on the delete or backspace on the keyboard to delete. Next, we want to link this pattern together or the lining together. Use the transform pattern tool. My key selects all these lining, right click, and then we want to apply. So we want to apply symmetric pattern with sewing. This allows us to only have to work with one side of the pattern. Alright, so next we want to do a couple of things here. I'm going to cut this and sew because we want the this part right here different than the lining, because we want that to have the same fabric as we use for the shell. So to do that, I will use this edit sewing tool, edit pattern tool, click on that line, right click, and we want to select cut and sew. There you go. So after we're doing that, I want to check the sewing a little. Okay, see if we need to do anything. Yep, so far we don't have to do anything yet. And next we want to restrict this for the lining. Simply click right here and then press on shift, click right here, and then we want to click right here and then right click. We'll go to select right here, offset pattern outline, and change the direction to restrict, and we want to type in 6 centimeter and then click on OK. Next, we want to remove the line we don't need. Simply right here, press on the delete or backspace on the keyboard to delete those lines because we don't need them. And we can actually clean this by right click, and then we want to select extend/trim to pattern outline, and let's see if we can do anything else. Okay, I'm gonna check this sewing. So if we click on this sewing right there, we want to bring this part down. Simply click, bring it down, and then click on this edge right here, bring it back up. So we're pretty good. All right, so before we simulate, we are going to sew the lining together. To sew the lining, I will use this tool. One is segment sewing tool. Simply sew the sleeve, and then we want to sew this right here, the shoulder to shoulder, and we also want to sew this collar here. So be sure these notches are parallel with one another, and let's expand this window a little bit so we can see this better. And then we want to sew the top here, and this is important, guys. The lapel, we want to sew this lapel from lining to the shell. So I will begin sewing from the top here, and we'll also want to change that sewing to turn. Okay, same right here. I'm going to zoom in, and we want to sew lapel to lapel, and once again change that to turn. Same right here. It is a little tedious, guys, but hey, it actually, compared to the real world sewing, it faster and a little bit easier. So always change them to turn, and I'm going to do this one as well. And then once again change them to turn. Okay, so now we're going to sew this. So let's bring it in. I'm going to sew the dot. Right there, right there. And then we're going to use the free sewing tool. So if you have more than one segment, it is good to use free sewing tool because it is faster. And like they separate like that, I will press on shift. But if we just sew like here and they all link together, connect together, you don't need to press shift. You just sew and then sew more. Perfect. And let me check the sewing. So I did not sew this side seam tonight. So right here I sew the sleeve but not the side seam. So I will use the free sewing tool again. Sew the side seam. Alright, so the dots, we sew back dots, front. Let's check the sewing. So I sew this, and this, and this. Alright, also this. Perfect. So one more thing before we simulate though. So of course we're gonna strengthen that, right click, strengthen. But we also want to come over here to the property editor, and we want to change this trinket width to 95. So if you refer to the guideline, you will see we'll change the trinket width to 95 first, and press return enter on the keyboard. And then now we are, hopefully it's safe to simulate, but let's give it a try. Okay, so a little bit more component for the computer to work with. So let me stop the simulation, and I want to hide the avatar. Let's hide the avatar. And I also want to hide the internal line. I don't think we need them now, for now. And let simulate a little more. And I'm going to stop and change this lining shrinkage to 98. And then I'm going to simulate again. So it's gonna take a little bit of time for the pattern to adjust. I'm gonna stop the simulation for now. And let's take a look. So we need to simulate a little more. So let's see if I'm going to I'm going to sew this lining to the shell, and then I will continue simulate. Okay, and let's shrink that back to 95. And then let's simulate one more time. Apologize for the slowness, guys. It takes a little bit of time to. So now looks like the facing stay where it should be, and also look at the shoulder pad. However, though, I'm going to change this back to 98. And let's simply expand that window, and I'm going to simulate one more time to see how the blazer lay. And let's stop the simulation. Alright, so there is something else that we need to do here. I'm going to let my key select that, and first of all I'm going to unstrengthen because we want to see. Okay, so now it is look pretty good. However, this seat right here, the pocket is a little bit flat. I'm going to create another fabric here. So simply click on that wool fabric and then select copy, and I'm going to change that to pockets, and I want to apply that fabric onto the pocket. And right here, click on the sign here to apply that fabric onto the pocket. Same right here, my key select and then click on the sign, and I'm going to zoom in here. So we want to click on that pocket fabric, come to the color, and then we want to change the color simply a little bit slighter, like darker, but not too dark, just a hint of dark, and then click on apply and close. So now we see the pocket a little more pop. However, though, we want to change the thickness to a little bit thicker. Simply click on that pattern and then come over here. We want to change that thickness rendering to 1.5. Press return enter on the keyboard, and we want to change that So geometry, but we want to change that to double side. Okay, so right there, turn on double side. So now the pocket looks thicker and looks like double side. Okay, so now I'm going to check on this sewing right here. Seem like the sewing a little off. So right there looks pretty good, but the sewing seem to we have an issue with this sewing. Alright. I'm going to click on that spot there, and why is the sewing a little bit off? Let's find out. Okay, internal line. I'm going to delete the internal line for now. And hopefully that's fixed. I'm going to strengthen the garment one more time. Oh, particle distance. So we will need to change the particle distance to a little bit smaller. Alright, so I'm going to press on number 2 here. And next we are going to apply the silk fabric onto the lining. So to apply the silk fabric, come over here to this fabric folder, double click on it, and then type in silk. And I'm going to come down here, select the silk fabric, drag and then drop onto the kind of sleeve right there to have the fabric, and I'm going to my key select all that fabric right there, choose me all the pattern, and then come over here, click on the assign. And then I'm going to click on that silk fabric, come down here, I want to change that to silk and satin. So right here under fabric material, be sure you are on the front, and then change that to fabric, silk and satin. And then I'm going to my key selects. Let's simply strengthen one more time here. Stop the simulation. We want to apply this fabric, the pocket fabric, onto this part right here. So let's strengthen one more time. Then I'm going to stop the simulation, and we want to unstrengthen and to see how the jacket looks. So the jacket actually looks pretty good, guys. And we want to change the particle distance here because that's what it costs. I'm going to my case select all the pattern pieces except the shoulder pad, and then come over here to the property editor, and we want to change the particle distance to 10. So you can change down to 5, but because again my laptop, I want to change to 10 is good enough. And hopefully they're fixed. Next I'm going to strengthen one more time, and then let's simulate. Wow, that looks pretty awesome, guys. So let's see if is it still there? Oop, it is 5 o'clock, guys. So I'm going to unstrengthen the garment and then check one more time. So now it looks pretty amazing. Okay, before we are finished though, I want to double check, be sure that these, once again, these shoulder pads are where it's supposed to be. So I will come over here to this display menu once again and then change that fabric to translucent. And then if we look at closely right here, this is the shoulder pads located between the shell and the lining, and that's what we want. And there it is, guys. I'm going to change that fabric back to thickness, and I hope you guys enjoy this live session for sew and construct the blazer with lining and shoulder pad. And if you guys have any question, be sure to leave a comment under the video description, and I promise I will get back to you as soon as possible. Because once again, I hope you guys have a beautiful Thanksgiving holiday, and hope you guys enjoy your family and friend gathering. And thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys next live session. Thanks for watching, guys.